Salutation, friends. We are here with another exceptional video. If you're new here, welcome. And if you are new to this case, this is the video for you to watch. This video is going to look at the connections, the dynamics, as well as the timeline of these victims' socials. I have gathered other socials that I can obtain, Facebook, Insta, TikTok, Twitter. I'm not able to do Snapchat or Be Real, but those put together to give us some insight on their connections before the murder, before they went to the university, see the dynamics of their friendships, see the dynamics of their family, and do it within a timeline from the very first time they post a social until, unfortunately, their last posts and their last likes on these socials. I have gathered a lot of information because these girls were very social, not only physically, but socially on their social media. They definitely enjoyed doing it. Their generation really is the first generation to be exposed to this type of social media. And as you see, I've got categories here. I've got their high school, family, what Kaylee likes, pictures together, how they complimented each other. You see they got a lot of friends here, and that has also partly due to how Insta works. You add your friends to kind of build your feed. So with knowing that, I only put in friends where they actually took a picture with on their socials. And there are a few cases where it shows, like for, right here, this OIEIEJ, I put them in it. I did do them because they do a lot of commenting on Kaylee's social. We're just focusing on Kaylee first. And as you see here, I will do the person's name and I'll gather their social, and then I'll put their name with Kaylee and how they're in her particular social. Once we're done with Kaylee, we'll do it with Maddie, and then we'll do it with Zana. It's a lot of information, so at first I was doing Kaylee and Maddie together and just realized I have to do just Kaylee alone. And we will go through all of these until August 11th. 2019 is when she goes to the University of Idaho. So we'll just do middle school, high school first, and then college next. So let's start with the connections, dynamics, and timeline. This is going to be a series, and it's going to be a series about this, the connections, dynamics, and timeline. My name is Roz. If you're new here, I'm Roz Knight, Squeeze the Quo, which is a play on status quo, which we will be hitting on that. Status quo is basically social norms, social myths that people believe in that are not true. We will be hitting a lot of those aspects throughout these videos. I'm a licensed medical professional of 20 years, and I also have my master's of criminal justice where I focused on victims, mostly human and sex trafficking. Why? Well, towards the last 5 years or so, I started off as a cardiothoracic in the hospital and kind of moved from that and done various forms of in the hospital with travel. But towards the end, right now I'm in an office, but towards the end I was doing more of pediatric, young adult, late adolescence, in the urgent care setting and also in the social setting. I worked at a youth residential facility where a lot of those youth were being sex trafficked. And what I've learned is sex trafficking is really a mental game. Obviously, it's physical. That's the abuse, that's the trauma. But it starts out as a mental game in which a lot of the employees had a hard time grasping. I feel I have an advantage as being a medical professional, a licensed medical professional, because contrary to popular belief, our main focus is not just giving or prescribing medications or just doing interventions like drawing blood, chest tubes, those type of things. Really, the main focus of our profession is the mental, the emotional, the behavioral, because those constitute how you act, react, and build your healthy habits in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And not all people, unfortunately, have a supportive network or even support. So therefore, if something like with the cardiothoracic, they came in and they needed a bypass, or they had some type of a lung disease, and that has been tragic, and thankfully we have medical interventions to help with that. But in order to prevent that from happening again, we really need to look at the dynamic of the person and the family to help them continue or help them change how they think, how they act, and how they eat, sleep, exercise, all of those things in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle after that medical intervention was performed. Unfortunately, a lot of people think, oh, I'm fixed, I can just keep going because it's fixed. And that is not how medicine works. It's been used and abused, obviously, but competent medical professionals who take their job seriously, that is what medicine is about. That is what the medical is about. And it's very hard. It's difficult, especially when I have a connection with this case with the young adults, their late adolescents, what their age group is, which is what I worked with at the youth residential program. And I kind of enjoyed working with them and with pediatrics because when they act and think in certain ways, well, that's just them learning and developing, and you can kind of work with them. They're more malleable. Whereas when you work with adults who still act like children, it is very difficult to learn how to navigate and how to make them malleable again to change. So that was just a little bit about me, and I'll express more throughout the case or throughout this series. So as I was just talking about the psychological, there's still a lot of people out there that don't believe in psychology or are afraid of psychology. I do believe, though, which is very status quo, a lot of people, like, I don't go and get help. I don't see a psychologist. They're going to get in my head and screw me up, or they're quacks, so on and so forth. And thankfully, it has changed some where it's become more socially acceptable, not so much taboo, to get counseling, see a psychologist or a psychoanalysis, coaching. People are more apt to talk about that, and a lot of that's cultural too. But with this picture, I want to show how there is underlying psychology that we deal with every day that we are not consciously aware of, and a lot of it is subconscious in what we do. For example, color in the clothes that we wear. And if you don't believe in this, or you think it's just not true, take it for what it's worth. Maybe read a book or so. But color psychology is in our everyday life. It's in commercials, movies, TV shows, the music industry, the entertainment industry. It's all in there, and you will hear directors and writers and talk about how they use specific colors to create certain moods, or what that character was feeling that day. And we do this even without even noticing. For example, we know what to wear to a funeral. Before it was always black. Now it's kind of changed. When you go to someone's wedding, you do not wear a white dress. If you do, you're going to cause some issues. If that's what you are wanting to do, then congratulations, that's what's going to happen. When you go to a prom, when you even go to court, I'm sure all of us at some point in our lives, because we live in the US, we've had speeding tickets, and you need to go into court and represent yourself in a very respectful way. And you do that by wearing certain clothes and certain colors. So here, I find it interesting how Xana and Ethan, who were dating at the time, are mirroring each other by wearing dark clothing. She's all in black. He's all in black with a gray shirt. Here we have Dylan and Bethany mirroring each other, both wearing gray tops and wearing light colored jeans. It looks like Dylan's is white, which an old status quo was you don't wear white after Labor Day. No one really follows that anymore. I don't know the history of that. I'm sure it's got to do something with conservatism of some sorts. Here we have Kaylee wearing a white top as well. So she's kind of mirroring Dylan. And Kaylee was not living there at the time. And she came back to be Dylan's +1 at the Betty Ball. Kaylee wasn't quite sure if she wanted to go or not because she wasn't living there at the time, and decided to do it because, one, she'll go to the Betty Ball, and two, she'll get to show Maddie her new Range Rover, which was new to her. It was a few years old. So these two are kind of mimicking each other as well. Both were in white. And Madison is sitting on Kaylee's shoulders, which, yes, it's fun and playful, but is that a metaphorical way too? Did Kaylee at times carry Maddie on her shoulders? And if you watch the Grub Truck video, you can hear her say, "Maddie, stop. I feel like I'm being your mom." And they do talk like that. They're also a little playful in their Instagram with each other, with calling each other mom. And Olivia has mentioned that they definitely complemented each other. They were a yin and a yang. So, and I'm sure they took turns being like that. But at this moment, Kaylee has Maddie on her shoulders. And Maddie's wearing yellow with a black top underneath. I'm assuming it's probably like a tank top of some sorts. And we do see her wear this sweater on a few other Instagram posts. So just some little information of basic color psychology. So black means sophistication, power, mystery, formality, evil, and death. Gray represents neutrality, stability, maturity, security, authority, and strength. White means purity, cleanliness, being modern, goodness, hope, and freshness. And yellow is caution, energy, cheerful, friendliness, intellect, and cowardice, which that is a mixed bag right there. So you had Xana and Ethan both wearing mostly black with a little gray. You have Dylan and Bethany both wearing gray and white. Kaylee wearing mostly white with Maddie wearing yellow and black. And I also like to point out that 5 of them are wearing light shoes, like sneakers, which I feel like that's a regional, because I've lived in other states before and gotten laughed at for calling them sneakers. Some people just call them, your tennis shoes, or they call them by their name, or street shoes. And Maddie's the only one that's really wearing combat boots. So she's wearing yellow with the combat boots, and she does have a pair of white ones, I believe. I've seen her in pictures. Maybe she just borrowed them from someone, but she's the only one that's wearing like a combat boot, which a lot of the sorority sisters wore them. But was she subconsciously wearing those while everyone's wearing light shoes? Just something to think about. I would also like to point out that this post on Kaylee's Insta, she posted it at 11:57 p.m. at 11/12/2022. And that tells me it's right before midnight of the 13th, which is when the massacre happened. And her caption says, "One lucky girl to be surrounded by these people every day." So this tells me they were all getting along up to that point. Everything is good. It was obviously taken earlier in the day, but she didn't post it until almost midnight. I'm going to assume that she was at the corner club when she posted that. And there's footage of her and Maddie at the corner club. And they are at the grub truck around 1:30-ish. So here I'm going to do my basic assessment of the victims with just basic information to build off of. And when we look into the dynamics of these victims, think about the family dynamic. So we'll get into the families a little bit of what I'm able to get, and that's why it's mostly Kaylee, because I don't know if I mentioned this. Kaylee's is first because I can get the most information from her friends and from her sorority sisters, where their socials weren't private, whereas Maddie and Zaina wasn't really into Instagram. She was more into Twitter, which she does interact with some fraternity members. But their sorority sisters of Pi Phi, a lot of their socials were private or didn't exist. So Madison was born May 25th, 2001. She's an only child. And I'm doing this in chronological order of the dynamic of their family. So she's an only child. She graduated from Lake City High School in 2019, and she was a senior at time of death at the U of I. Was a former member of Pi Phi. I want to say, and we'll look into this as the time comes, it happened sometime in 2021. And it was her second year living at 1122 Queen Road. And here is the home, which is no longer there. It's been demolished. You will hear the media as well as the police call it 1122 King because it's considered the King Road neighborhood, even though it's on Queen Road. And here are the Queen Road apartments. And this is a corner lot. This is 1112, where in this area there was a kind of like a ring cam type device that was taken for evidence. Over here in this corner back here is 1127, which Kaylee's ex-boyfriend lived off and on with a roommate named Adam Lotta, who also was at the corner club that night. Apparently, from what we've heard, I don't know how true it is, but he was a bartender there, but not working that night. In this video, you can either listen or you can watch. You can do either or, because I will be talking throughout every picture. So here is Xana Kernodle. She was born July 5th, 2002. She is the youngest. She has an older sister named Jasmine, I'm sure she graduated by now, went to Washington State University, the same university that the accused Brian Koberger was a student there as a PhD student of criminal justice. He focused on forensics. I'm not quite sure which aspect. And part of his duties of being a PhD student, he's also a teacher's aide. And there's some controversy about how he taught there. I guess he took it seriously, and that kind of ruffled some feathers. Xana graduated from Post Falls High School in 2020. If you remember, I'm sure you do, that was COVID. COVID lockdown started happening in March of 2020. And she was a junior at the time of death at U of I. I want to say she was also in marketing, and she had an internship at Palouse Real Estate. She was also a member of Pi Phi. She was no longer a member of Pi Phi, just like Maddie was, as well as Kaylee. Ethan was a current member, and Dylan and Bethany were current members. And she also lived at 1122 Queen Road. Just go back to the house if it shows it. So this is Xana's room. This was Bethany's room. This is the living room. If you're just listening, if you can just visualize the house, you go up to the second floor. From the front door to the right is Xana's room. To the left is the living room. And on the first floor window, next to the door, on the same side of the front door, is where Bethany's room was. Dylan's was in the back on the second floor. And I want to say Kaylee's room is the first one in the window. I'm not sure though, so don't quote me on that. I haven't really focused on that for some reason. I want to say it is, and Maddie's was the other room with the balcony. So next is Ethan Chapin. He was born October 29th, 2002. He's a triplet. He's the oldest of the other two, which is Hunter and Maisie. He graduated from Mount Vernon High School in 2021. A lot of people are getting tripped up of why he and Xana were the same age, but in different grades. The only thing I can think of, and I'm sure it's like this throughout the U.S., just maybe the months are a little different, but if you have a child whose birthday is in October or November, depending on what date it falls on, you can choose to either go early or wait a year. So that's why I think he is behind. It was because of when their birthdays were. So he was a sophomore at the time of death. He's a current member of Sigma Chi with his brother Hunter. Maisie's a member of Kappa Alpha, which I believe is where the Betty Ball is. They hold that. It seems like their balls are not yearly. I think they all take turns to have one. They all have their own specific ones. And he was living at the Sigma Chi house per the neighbors, per people who are living in that area and other people had interviewed. It's not specified by the family or police. They have a lot of details, but not the important details. And so here is Kaylee. Her birthday is June 8th, 2001. And as I'm thinking about details, thank you for coming to my channel. Thank you for watching this, especially my subscribers who have been with me since the beginning. But I am aware there are several other channels out there that like to use my channel as a source, which thank you for that. It tells me that you trust the information that I give, but please don't be like the FBI or MPD or LE by not showing your work of how you got that information. Give credit where credit is due. It's about integrity. She is one of 5. She is a middle child. She has an older brother and sister with 2 younger sisters. She graduated from Lake City High School with Maddie. They're BFFs, and per the family, they were like sisters. And you will see in their socials how much Maddie really integrated with her siblings. And they went on several vacations together. She's a senior at U of I, and she graduated early. She was a former member of Alpha Phi, and she lived at 1122 Queen Road, and she moved up prior to 11/13/22, which we discussed earlier. And she had a job in marketing lined up in Houston, Texas. And she was ready to go on a European vacation. It was planned. The ticket was bought. She was starting at Spain. It's unknown of the travel date, but and she does take a screenshot of it. I want to say it was within a few weeks of this happening. With that being said, a lot of people were pointing or looking at Jack DeCour, which he was cleared. It took some time for them to clear him. But if you're in a relationship that's like that, you usually do look at the ex first, because it's usually someone. These types of murders happen by someone you know, not by some random person or some stranger. The whole stranger danger was made up by the FBI. I believe it was J. Edgar Hoover who did this. It was back in the 60s. And that really started a fear throughout the U.S. If I'm correct, it is J. Edgar. He had quite the salacious lifestyle himself, which is very projecting right there. But on his part, but it's usually by someone you know, especially murders like these. It's very personal. And personal meaning it's personal to the person who is doing it. It's personal for them for whatever reason that they're doing it. And with a relationship, I'm not saying they had an abusive relationship, but I have done research papers on not only stalking, but interpersonal violence on college campuses, which it happens a lot. So any woman who is in a relationship that is controlling, because that's what it's about power and control. The most dangerous time for a woman is when she's leaving a relationship. And they could just be dating for a short period of time, or they could be for a long time. It doesn't matter about the quantity. It's about what the quality of what they think it is. So a lot of people were looking at him, and he lived down the road. So it's not a leap to think that, but he has been cleared. With this job in Houston, she had a work laptop that Steve had mentioned that they wanted, that they were looking for, the police and FBI, probably mostly just for the company. It's controversial because Kaylee's LinkedIn account it just disappeared, I think like 12 hours after the murders happened, which Olivia was aware of. So here are the 5 roommates, excuse me. And at the time of the murders, there were 6 people in the home. That means that is Ethan. So here you have Dylan on the left. Then you have Zena, Bethany, Kaylee, and Maddie. It looks like Kaylee has just gotten a tattoo. I want to say, I think it's something here. I can't remember exactly, but I think it's in reference to her grandfather who passed when she was 15 years old. And this was taken on August 16th of 2022. Here it looks like, to me, a male, just by the skin tone, the shirt. Hunter was there at this time, this August 16th, because there was body cam footage shown to us. That Truth and Transparency, she does a lot of those body cams as well as Plunder. But he was not seen on body cam. Here's the couch, and a couch is a lot in this university. A lot of people sitting on couches in their kitchen, in some videos. So I don't know if it's just a prank or they move them around, but it's definitely part of that culture at the University of Idaho. I don't know if it has a reference of Friends. A lot of that generation is coming back into this generation of liking that show. And here is a picture or a screenshot of the body cam footage that was August 16th, 2022 at 5:27. Here you see Dylan leaving. So if you haven't watched it, I definitely would. And you hear him say, "Hello, come here," and she runs off and shuts the door. Looks at him and shuts the door. And this is the JBL. This is the speaker. So they basically came there to pre-warn them, like pre-crime stuff. We're warning you now for any type of noise. And this is at 5 o'clock. So they're warning them about noise already when there wasn't any noise going on, except for right when the police officer came and told them that if they have to come back, they're going to get fined. So they already pre-warned them. I don't know how legal that is. So the house was demolished in December of 2023, December 28th to be exact. And the current president of U of I, Scott Green, grew up in this home when he was a child. The house has had 2 additions since then. I don't know how big, I don't know how small, but he would know the foundation of that home. And the person or persons who did this definitely would have to know the home to navigate through it. So the information I give you, I'll let you know either by showing you or by using a source that I put in descriptions, or I'll let you know this is what we hear. We're not quite sure, just so that I want to keep it very professional, keep it very clear about where I get my information from. Because I'm doing this more for educational purposes. And that's why I kind of gave that little disclaimer about using my channel's information for your own use for other channels, because it's either used to sensationalize or it's used to discredit. Either or, just say where you got it from. So here I mentioned they went to Lake City High School. The family have mentioned this, but here it's tagged right here on her Instagram. This is Nevaeh Douglas, which she, Kaylee, and Maddie were very close. I want to say mostly in their high school years. All three of them really hung out. Deja Wilson, I want to say she's more of a friend with Xana, but we'll see. We do see more of her. And Riley Walker, we'll see more of her. She and Maddie and Kaylee all hung out mostly in the middle school years, but then you see towards the high school years, they kind of fade, they kind of grow apart. And this is the academy. This is their middle school that, it's a charter school that Steve, her dad, has spoke about, that she and Maddie went to together. And then here is the high school's homepage, Lake City Timberwolves. And here is Kaylee with her Vasco, showing her school spirit. And this is Post Falls High School. And this is where that's where Xana went to school. So here is just a Google Maps to show how far Post Falls High School is from Lake City. And it's an 11-minute drive. So that's how close their high schools were. And in the beginning of this case with mass media, it was really, I almost want to say it was pushed that Xana was from Avondale, Arizona. So when you hear that, you think she grew up there. She does have a car with an Arizona license plate on it, but that does not mean that she grew up there. She went to high school at Post Falls High School. And we will do her socials and see. I mean, she may have lived in Arizona for a duration of time, but she definitely had her high school years at Post Falls, that's 11 minutes away from Kaylee and Maddie. Having schools this close together, you're going to have a crossover. You're going to have some connections. You do see in their homecoming videos and their prom or pictures and homecoming pictures of them having them at the same place, which I'm going to assume is going to be Coeur d'Alene, the resort. And this is Mount Vernon High School in Washington State. And Mount Vernon High School to the University of Idaho is a little over 5.5 hours. And Lake City High School, Post Falls, kind of the same thing. Distance-wise, it's an hour and a half to the University of Idaho, which is it's a fair drive. It's not too long, but it is a fair drive. So a lot of people have had some opinions about why Steve and Christy didn't drive down to Moscow after hearing what they heard. I've said this on my channel before, early on, that I believe that Maddie was the target because, from what we've been told, Maddie's mom was the only parent that was asked to go down and interview. The police did not interview the Goncalves or either the Chapins. They said they did hundreds of interviews, but of not the family. To me, that tells me they don't want to know. And Ann Taylor has even asked recently in the hearing, where's the investigation? I don't see any investigation. which tells me if they're not looking for it, it's because they don't want to know, because they already have an idea of who it is. And it's starting to look, it's not the accused, Brian Koberger. And I know people want to believe that when you get a phone call like that, you're going to drive down there. We all like to think we're going to act in a certain way, but when it happens, that doesn't always happen. We don't actually show those actions. And not to sound like a downer, or not to sound like I'm lecturing, but technically you should not be driving. I'm hoping that someone drove Karen down there, but they say you should not drive under stress like that, because that's how a lot of accidents happen. And if you're hearing that basically 2 of your daughters got murdered, you're going to want to stay home and protect the rest of your daughters and your son. You have no idea what's going on. So even though Ethan lived in Washington State, his family had a house at Priest Lake, and you do see a lot of Insta posts when they're in the university of a lot of fraternities members and sorority members at Priest Lake and at this home as well. Just a quick overview, because this is getting information of their connections, dynamics, and the timeline off of social media. Just go over social media here a little bit. So Facebook, it launched on February 4th, 2004. It was originally done to connect. It was created to connect with other students within the university, and then it became public. A few years later, Twitter came out on March 21st, 2006. This was Xana's preferred social media, I want to say, out of the ones that I can see. She does more tweeting before she actually does an Insta post. Twitter was rebranded as X on July 23rd, 2023. So here is Instagram logo evolution. It started in 2010, October 6, 2010. And you see their logo has went from a drastic change to subtle change. And here is Vasco, which was launched in 2012. It's more of a, from what I've seen, it can be used in several different ways. One way, it's more of a photography, it's more art, and then sometimes if you don't want to put information on your Insta or your Facebook because you know your family looks at that, then you do other posts on your Vasco. So you'll see that with Kaylee and Maddie. They're both socially aware of that, which I don't know if I mentioned earlier. You know, their generation really was the first generation to be having the social media exposed to them. With these girls, they were very candid with the social media. You know, they were young. They didn't really try to present themselves in a certain way, which we all know of someone or someones who use Facebook to show like everything is perfect, my life is great, so on and so forth. These girls really did not, in my opinion. But they did use Vasco as a way of, maybe their pictures are a little more risque, even though Kaylee's pictures would be considered risque, but she's really just wearing a bathing suit. It's just that she has some assets that people project onto her, and that's something that you need to realize. TikTok, they all pretty much use, I mean, I can't see Dylan and Bethany's very much because they've either gotten rid of them or they're private. I was able to get some pictures of them though through other connections. But Maddie, Kaylee, and Xana did use TikTok. So it was launched in 2016, and in 2018, TikTok became the most downloaded app in the US. As of 2022, TikTok has over 3 billion downloads and over 1 billion active users each month. So that tells me that it's not about the Chinese technology, it's not about the government, it's about money. And the US wants their grubby little fingers on that. So here is Maddie's Insta page. She joined Instagram December 2012, and she has basically accounts with shared followers, and this shows the connections. So 74% of Maddie's followers also follow Kaylee. And for Xana, 52% of Maddie's followers also follow Xana. So that shows how interconnected those three girls are before they went to the university. And as I mentioned, when they first started talking about this case, they talked about how Kaylee and Maddie grew up in Coeur d'Alene, Rotherham, and Xana was Avondale, Arizona. So this is Maddie's first post. It says Lake Days. It was posted July 17th, 2013. So about 6 months after she joined. What I like to do with all of these posts is show their first post when we go through their friends and the first post that they were tagged in, just to see if there's a difference. And with Maddie, Kaylee, and Xana, I did not do that because they are tagged that I can't even, it takes me, it's so long, I can't. I tried a couple times and and Instagram is not the way it used to be. It's definitely been sluggish. And so this post, she's 12 years old. So here's just a little back and forth that they have, just kind of being like, and you're going to see in Xana and Jasmine with her friends how they talk about how they fought, like they would beat the shit out of each other. And so I'm sure we all know sisters and how their dynamics, it can be complicated. Some of them love hard and some of them fight hard. And some just ignore each other and some pretend they don't even exist. It's such a range and it's very complicated. But here I like to show how these two interacted. So here, Kaylee writes, "Lake days on my boat. Haha, love you, Mads." And Maddie responds with, "That comment was highly necessary, huh?" And Kaylee's like, "Yep, I think it was. Tag me." So, they had a playful friendship. They were able to communicate with each other. They were able to express how they felt to each other. Here is Xana's Insta page. It's followed by Kaylee and Maddie. I don't follow Bethany and Dylan, so I won't be able to see if they are by the front page. But if you look it up, you will see, yes, they do. But because I don't, it doesn't show up on here. And she joined March 2013. And her first post is until April of 2016. So I don't know if, as I said, she may have tagged photos earlier, but if you, and she's 13 at the time, but if we go into the PowerPoint that I made for her, she's mostly Twitter, and she's tweeted. Yep, she has several tweets. So her first tweet is, so she joined July of 2014. So she joined Insta first, then Twitter. But her first tweet is August 24th, 2015. And oh no. All right, let me fix this. Let me go back. Press the wrong button. I meant to hit current slide, not from the beginning. So her first Insta is 2016. So here's Kaylee's. And she's followed by Maddie Murphy, who I do follow, and Xana. And she joined March of 2012. And another thing about Xana is she has no Insta stories. The other two do. And her first post is May 22nd of 2015. She may have some earlier tagged ones, but as I mentioned, these girls are tagged so much by, memory pages, honor pages. It takes way too long. So next we're getting into the family. I don't know if I mentioned this. This will definitely be a series, and I'm going to do family and a friend just to show you. And then the next video I do, whether it be in a few days or in a week, but I'm definitely going to try to do weekly because it's going to be a lot of them. And it's all going to depend on how I'm doing as well, because this takes a lot of energy. I'm not the type of person who goes into people's socials and stalk them and just read everything and put everything together. It's mentally taxing. I'm doing it for research, obviously, just to be objective, but it's kind of tough when you know the outcome of these three girls, and it does weigh on you. So we'll do the family and then one of their friends, and the next week I'll do like travel, Dutch bros, do a little bit of those, and then some friends, and just kind of go back and forth with it and just kind of see how it flows. So we'll do family next. And where are we? About an hour. You know what? I'm going to do a friend just to get a feel of it, and then I'll do family. All right, so this is Alexandra Medina, and she's got a personal blog. She's got nails. I'm assuming she's went to cosmetology school. She's followed by Kaylee and Maddie, and she joined in 2016, and she's had 3 former names. So she's kind of late in the game, but she could also have had a whole different account that we are not aware about. And this is the nails, which Kaylee follows, and it's right in Coeur d'Alene. So she joined in 2016, but her first post isn't until 2018. And 2018 sticks out a lot when I'm going through their socials. A lot is going on in 2018, whether it's people doing posts for the first time or doing their Insta account at 2018, or certain events happen in 2018, it pops up a lot. So just be aware of that. And this post, Kaylee liked. And this is the first post she is tagged in. And out of these names that I recall that are connected with Kaylee is Charlotte Henning and Sarah Swider. And then her next post isn't until March 29th of 2019, which Maddie likes. So when I'm just focusing on Kaylee, I'm just going to do the post that Kaylee likes or that Kaylee commented on. If they both like, I'm going to have it on Kaylee's. And if Maddie just likes it, like in this case, I would just put it on Maddie's only. But for this one, because she had so few posts, I'm showing both for context. Nevaeh Douglas, we see that name. I mentioned her earlier. Kay Bowman, another one that we'll see. And this one, Maddie likes it, and Nevaeh comments with no Kaylee. So I'm going to assume that she is closer with Maddie and Nevaeh than she is with Kaylee. Here, they both like it, and Nevaeh and Maddie are the only two out of the three to post a comment. And this is June 24th of 2019. And then her next post isn't till, so this is before the murders happen, June 24th, 2019. And then this is after October 30th, 2023. And it's the second picture of the series. And it has the Scream Mask guy with the knife saying psycho underneath it. And then Michael Myers saying toxic underneath it. And it's tagged at Tony's on the Lake, which I looked it up. It's in Coeur d'Alene. And she writes, "We don't need costumes. Boo." So just a play on words, but I'm assuming if that's who they are, if that's their costume, I'm going to say that she's the Scream person and her, I guess that's her boyfriend, is that. Or it's just a picture. I'm not quite sure. But I'm sure she's well aware of what happened. I understand it's just costumes, but maybe I'm just a little sensitive to it, and maybe other people don't have a sensitivity to it. But your lack of sensitivity does not excuse it. So she has one comment, which is, "I couldn't love this and you more." And then November 1st, so that was the last one, is October 30th of 2023. And then her next post is not until November 1st of 2024, which is the spookiest Halloween. And it looks like she's a vampire with blood coming from the side of her mouth down to her neck and chest. And the person behind her is a male who has blood splatter on him. I mean, I'm going to say similar hands, possibly. About the same height. Just looking at both pictures back and forth. And this looks familiar. This setting. This looks familiar. I'm not saying the apartments where the four of them are together, where they do a lot of photos, but somewhere near there. And I'm going to look through all of my photos to see why this looks familiar to me. Part of me wants to think that this is at the university, but I could be wrong. And then some of these comments here. And so the people in your neighborhood, that video, I used a lot of Slump Dog, Ski Mask, Slump Dog, the Ski Mask, Slump God, and Ski Mask. I lost my brain there for a second. He is definitely quoted and used a lot on all of their socials. Kaylee, Maddie, Zana, and even Ethan with his comments. And this is this yacht right here. And I did 3 of his videos on that video that I did, which tells a lot of a parallel and metaphorical and kind of literal of what happened at 1122 Queen Road. Ski Mask the Slump Dog. There you go. I had some dyslexia going on there. So yeah, that's it for her. Just to give you an overview of how I will be doing their connections with their friends. And let's look at her with Kaylee. So right here, she comments on June 10th, 2016. It's Kaylee and one of her friends, Charlotte Hennig, which they have mostly in middle school, not so much in high school, if I recall. And you'll see Kaylee call her Char. But here, Alexandra comments, your profile pic makes me want to KMS, kill myself. And Kaylee writes back, stop, with crying emojis, love you, with 3 hearts. And this is Kaylee's post, and she writes, last day with Char. So school is ending. And this person down here commented, you guys went outside for this? And Graydon Lee, you'll see his name a lot, or frequently. Hey, you're kind of cute. HMU, hit me up. All right, and then this Insta post is not until it's December 22nd, 2016. And Kay Bauman, which I said we'll see her. Anderson Shayla, we'll get into her as well. From what I understand, she's older than Kaylee. And they go to Sandpoint together. And Miranda Collette. So when I look at her Insta, she is friends with Ruby Smith. Excuse me, I keep saying Ruby Smith. Ruby Simpson, who is Maddie's roommate the first year she lives there before Kaylee and Zana. So Maddie lived at 1122 the year prior to that with Ruby, Kim, Jennifer, and Sophia. And we'll show an Insta post of them all together saying, we've been here the whole semester. We never took a roommate post. So it shows them all together the year prior. So she is connected with Ruby Smith. And here is Alexandra, a picture with Kaylee on March 16th, 2017. And Kaylee writes, our faces because the sun's out. Yay. And Alexandra doesn't say anything. And there's one other comment that says, pretty girls, exclamation. And then the next post with Alexandra is May 26, 2017. And here she is with, Kaylee is with Kelsey Spellman, and Kaylee calls her Kels, and Deja Wilson. So Deja, I want to say, is more friends. Yes, she's friends with Kaylee, but I want to say she has a closer relationship with Xana, but we'll see when we see the other ones. So here, Kaylee says, lucky to have these two. And looks like they're swimming at nighttime. And Alexandra just writes boobies with heart eye emoji. And Kaylee writes back, love you more. Love you more than anything, Lex. And then this name I'm noticing it more and more. There's just so much information that the more I go over it, the more I find more connections. Here, May 29th, 2018. Kaylee is pictured with Maddie at the Five Palms restaurant, which I want to say that's in Hawaii. They went to Hawaii several times with each other. And Alexandra says, you two are too cute. And this 20 Pruitt loves dark wolves. You see that name often saying things like this. I love you, Kaylee. And this person's, their Insta is private. But it did get 4 likes. Okay. And that's all of Alexandra. So the first post that Alexandra is interacting with Kaylee is in 2016. And the last time she interacts with Kaylee is May 29th of 2018. So looking back at her page, her first post is November 7th of 2018. And June 10th, 2016 is the first time we hear from Alexandra on Kaylee's page. And she joins Instagram May of 2016. So maybe she just wasn't active in social media. So maybe she really didn't have any posts before then. She just started using Insta in May of 2016, and that could be a parental choice as well. Okay. So I'm deciding, should I just go ahead and do the family to close out? Or should I wait to do the family and then do more of their friends, which I think I'm going to do, because that was a lot of information to give to you. Let me know in the comments if this is something that you would like to see a series of. I know I mentioned in my other videos that I was working on Patreon. As I started getting towards that more and more, I realized that maybe Patreon was not a good fit for me, because there really isn't an app for Patreon. There is one, but it's not shown like YouTube. So I would like for people to be able to not only listen, but to also watch it. And Patreon doesn't really have that option if you want to watch it on your television. You can definitely watch it on your laptop or your computer, but let me know in the comments which way do you prefer, watching videos or listening to them? and we'll see how that goes. But for now, I find that YouTube is the outlet for where this channel is going, especially now that I'm showing these social media posts. So if you just listen, then it doesn't really matter. But I guess I'm looking for those who are a visual person, which is me. I am more of a visual person. I do listen, but when it comes to learning something new, I like to see a visual with it. So that's my preferred way of learning. So it's more of a personal choice, but just let me know in the comments. And also let me know if you like what I'm doing with this and if this has been helpful at all. Thank you so much for listening. If you have gotten to this point, I appreciate that. And as I mentioned, I will probably do another one definitely within the week. I'm going to try to do these weekly. I'll do one, see how people react, how it's being received, and then kind of take it from there. But I will let you know this moment. The next video I do is going to be about Kaylee's family with more friends. Thank you all for listening. Until then, stay tuned.